Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Respected listeners, Jazakallah khair. Welcome to the seventh session of the reading of Irshad al-Muluk, which is a book translated from Arabic. The original book was called Risala Makkiyah, and it was written in Arabic by Shaykh Qutbuddin Dimashqi rahmatullah alayh, and then translated into Farsi by Mawlana Rashid Ahmad Gangohi rahmatullah alayh, and thereafter translated to Urdu. And in this series we're reading out from the Urdu with translation into English by myself. So in the last session we finished the first chapter, and the second chapter begins today inshallah. And in this section, Mawlana Gangohi rahmatullah alayhi, Kutub al-Irshad, Imam Rabbani Mawlana Gangohi rahmatullah alayhi mentions the Salik ko Sheikh ki Zurat or Sheikh Tariqat ki Sharait, that the need for the Salik, for the one traversing the path of Tasawwuf, to have a Sheikh himself, and the conditions of, or the prerequisites or the conditions of a Sheikh of Tariqat. So it's all about the need of the Salik having a Sheikh, and also the conditions of what's expected from the Sheikh themselves. So जानना चाहिए कि सालिक के लिए शेख कामिल का होना निहायत ज़रूरी है. So it should be known that for the salik, for the one traversing the path, for there to be a complete perfect sheikh is extremely important, or extremely of extreme need, ताकि उसके रास्ता का रफीक बने, so that he may be his companion in the path and in the journey, और उसको ऊंच नीच समझाता रहे, and that so that he may teach him or explain to him of the ups and downs of the path, the spiritual path, the path of Tasawwuf. Allah Almighty says in the Quran Kareem, चुनांचे Allah Ta'ala फरमाता है, या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनु तक़ुल्लाह वब्तग़ू इलैहिल वसीला, that all believers acquire the complete taqwa of Allah Almighty and seek towards Him a wasila, a means. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also says, إن أصحابك النجوم فبأيهم اقتديتم اهتديتم. Janab Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam फरमाते हैं that indeed my companions are like stars, whichever of them you were to follow, then you shall be guided. So the fact that having a Sheikh, Mawlana Gangohi rahmatullah alayhi, Shaykh Qutbuddin Dimashqi rahmatullah alayhi, he's supporting this argument with a verse from the Quran and a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. उससे मालूम हुआ कि राहयाबी के लिए किसी अहले हक को मुक्तदा बनाना ज़रूरी है. And he says that it can be understood from this that in order to know the path, understand the path, it's necessary that one considers a person from the truth, a true scholar, a true sheikh, Sufi, to be one's leader, ताकि उसकी पैरवी से मंजिल मकसूद तक रसाई हो, so that one is able to reach the final purposeful destination under his guidance. Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi ne Ihya al-Ulum में Janab Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam riwayat की है. And then he mentions that Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi, the very famous Sufi scholar, and he mentions in his magnum opus, his excellent Ihya al-Ulumuddin, the revival of the Islamic sciences. He mentions inside there a hadith attributed to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inna shaykh fi jama'atihi ka nabiyyin fi ummati, that indeed the sheikh in his group, in his gathering, is like the prophet fi ummati, in his ummat. उसका मतलब यही है, the meaning of this is कि शेख कामिल नाइब बनकर नबूवत की खिदमत अंजाम देता, that the sheikh kamil, the perfect sheikh, naib bankar, by being the vicegerent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, also provides the service, or provides the khidmat and the service and found or distributed or conveyed through the institute of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, और अपनी जमात को राय हक दिखाता है. In that the ulama themselves, they teach Islam, they teach the Quran and Hadith, and they also do the tazkiyah at the same time. और अपनी जमात को राय हक दिखाता, and they also show the true path to the people following them, और गुमराही से डराता रहता है, and they also warn of deviance. इस तरह पर अंबिया के मसल लोगों की नजात का वसीला बनता है. And in this way इस तरह पर अंबिया के मिथल लोगों की नजात का वसीला बना. In this way, like the अंबिया, like the prophets, they are also the means of people gaining salvation. These Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi फरमाते हैं, in addition to this, Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi also says कि शेख की ये अजमत कुछ मुतापे और कुव्वत तमव्वुल की वजह से नहीं है. That the greatness of the Sheikh isn't because he's so mighty or he's so powerful physically or that he has so much wealth, etc. बल्कि थमराए अकल व फहम और तरीके नजात में तजर्बाकार होने के सबब से. But the cause of this is because the Sheikh himself is on account of his intelligence, his understanding, and also the fact that he's also an individual who has experience in the path of salvation. और इसीलिए शरीफ नसब ही नहीं, and it's because of this that a person इसीलिए शरीफ नसब ही नहीं बल्कि बुतेरे वो गरीब व नादार और पेशावर जिनको लोग नज़र हकारत से देखते बाइज़्ज़त मशाइख बन चुके. And he says it's because of this that it's not the case that just those of noble lineage, but there are many of those individuals who are gharib. Gharib means poor here. Nadar, they have very little. Or peshawar, and they're people that work, they might have a skill or they might have some sort of work that they do. They might be a carpenter, they might be a blacksmith, etc. Jinko log nazar hakarat se dekhte, which people generally consider them to be quite lowly people, ordinary people, from the common people, or they might even consider them to be people of very insignificance. And he says that it happens that many of these types of people ba'izzat mashaykh ban chuke hai, that they've also become mashaykh and sheikh of tariqat with great honor and respect. This is a very important point because sometimes in some tariqats you find that some of the tariqats have a precondition that a person can only be a sheikh if he's of Sharif or Nasab, he's from the Quraysh, or he's a descendant of the Quraysh, or he's from the Sadat or the descendants of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You do find many mashaykh, mashallah, mashaykh haqqa, who are min as-Sadat, who are Siddiqis, who Faruqis, etc., Ayyubis, and you do find this quite common, but that's not a prerequisite of tasawwuf. It can be the case that people who might not be of noble lineage, they might work, they might follow some sort of they might work, do some sort of manual labor type of work. They might be a carpenter or a person who works with wood, or a blacksmith or anything like this. They might be a farmer, and all of these individuals, which people generally consider to be quite an ordinary type of work, quite not very significant, and they might turn around and say, these people might become mashaykh in themselves because the conditions of the sheikh are found in them. But sheikh kisi surat shakal ka or kisi zaat ya qaum ka kyun na ho. So he then says that regardless of what the outward appearance of a sheikh is, he might not be very good looking, or kisi zaat ya qaum ka kyun na ho, and regardless of which community or which brotherly or which tribe he's from, magar wo hona chahiye jo tariqe haq par chal raha ho. He should be, regardless of all these things, he should be a person who's following the true path. Aur rasta ke khatro aur andeshon se aga hota ho. And he should be one who understands the dangers and the calamities of the path. So you should know, like, okay, at this junction, or whilst following the path of tasawwuf, at this juncture, one might fall into some sort of difficulty. So he knows all of these different difficulties of the path, ताकि अपने मुरीदों को उनके नफ़ा और नुकसान से मुत्तले करता और उनको जिताता रहे, so that he may explain to his murids the benefit and the harms of such a thing, and he may encourage them to move forward. कि तरीक़त की कसूती कुरान और सुन्नत और इजमाए उम्मत है, and he can keep on explaining to them that the yardstick by which tariqat is measured is the Quran and Sunnat and the consensus of the Ummah. कि जो तरीक़ा इस मैयार पर चिस्पा हो कर खरा साबित हो वो मकबूल है. That tariqat which is able to be measured according to this yardstick of the Quran and Sunnah and the ijma of Ummah, then this is the tariqah that's actually accepted. Warna mardud wa matrud, Otherwise, it's something that's rejected. And this is a very important point. The sheikh has to be there's conditions of the sheikh, and the sheikh has to be someone who's traversed the path himself. He understands the importance of Quran and Sunnah. He follows the Quran and Sunnah. It doesn't matter what's his nasab, what's his lineage. It doesn't matter what he looks like, whether he's a man of wealth or not, whether he has a high standing in society or not. But he's a person who is a man of Allah, and all the conditions are found inside him. And it's necessary to find a sheikh of this sort. Why? Because he'll be able to then guide you along the path. And not only guide you along the path, but he'll also be able to emphasize the importance of Quran and Sunnah and the ijma of the Ummah. And because this is the tariqah that's accepted in the eyes of Allah, nothing else is. And you do find sometimes some mashayikh, people who attribute themselves to the Institute of Tasawwuf, who attribute themselves to the Institute of Sufism, who attribute themselves to the Institute of Tariqat, and unfortunately they don't follow this to the T, and you see the outcome later on. And there's so many other examples. I mean, just a basic YouTube search will probably bring up lots of examples of this type. So ऐसे शख्स की बेअत के नफ़ा का तो क्या पूछना, सोहबत भी नेमत है. So he says that when the person is of this caliber, that forget about getting bay'at or swearing an oath of allegiance to this person in tariqat. Just remaining in the company of such a person is a bounty in itself. उस नेकोकार हम नशीन से कम नहीं जिसके मुतालिक जनाब सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने यूँ इरशाद फरमाया है कि साले हम नशीन की मिसाल इतर फरोश की सी है कि इतर न भी देगा तब भी उसकी खुशबू से बहरायाबी ज़रूर होगी. And he says that the person who remains in the company of a pious individual of this type is just like what Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned, that the pious companion is like the seller of itar. Even if he doesn't give you some itar, then one will also benefit from the fragrance that's being sold in the shop. So, और बद्दीन हमेशा ऐसा है जैसे लोहार के अगर आग बदन और कपड़े को न भी जलाएगी तब भी धुएं की बदबू दिमाग ज़रूर परेशान कर देगी. And he says that the bad company is like, or the company that's irreligious or contrary to religion is like the blacksmith. That if a person remains in the company of a bad blacksmith, then if it's not the case that the fire or the sparks reaches his body and his clothes, then in the least the smoke from the furnace will trouble you mentally in one way or another. So what Qutb al-Irshad, Imam Rabbani, Mawlana Rashid Ahmad Gangohi rahmatullah alayhi is saying here is that the example of a pious a sheikh is just like the seller of itar. Even if when you go to an itar shop, even if you don't buy anything, and even if he doesn't give you a bit of a sample to taste, to smell, or to put onto your clothes or rub onto your hands, etc., that in the least you'll benefit in the sense that you'll be able to stand in the shop and you can smell some of the itar itself, and it'll actually make you feel a little bit happy and a bit positive. And he says that the good company of a good sheikh is just like that, whereas the company of someone who's not pious, that is just like the company of a blacksmith. You hang around in the blacksmith's workshop, then it might be the case that your clothes or your body might not get burnt with the fire or some sparks as he beats the iron on the anvil. Doesn't affect you in any way, but the dark smoke in this place would definitely reach you. It'll get into your clothes and it might even trouble you mentally. So he says that the bad company is just like this. So this is the first section of the second chapter regarding the need of a sheikh. The sections after that deal with Sheikh Kamil ki talash, seeking a Sheikh Kamil, a perfect Sheikh, Tawheed matlab, oneness in one's purpose, and then after that is a few more nasiyat, etc. I'll inshallah discuss that in a few lessons over the coming weeks, inshallah. Sorry I started a bit late today. I've just managed to log on a little while ago. But inshallah, see you again at the same time next week, inshallah, 8:30. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.